Hello everyone. The name of the subject is repair and rehabilitation of structure. The topic name is non-destructive testing. Today we'll discuss two topics, which is rebound hammer test and ultrasonic pulse velocity. This is a part of Unit 2 and Lecture 8. So the objective is non-destructive test is used in a variety of settings that covers a wide range of industrial activity with new non-destructive test methods and applications. Being continuously developed, non-destructive testing methods are routinely applied in industries where a failure of components would cause significant hazard or economic loss, such as in transportation, vessels, building structures, piping, and hoisting equipment. So let us discuss about destructive technique and non-destructive technique. So basically, non-destructive is a form of testing wherein we understand the strength of the structure without actually destroying the structure. That is, in destructive method, we actually we have to cut out a portion of the structure and remove it, and that part is tested. So by removal or by damaging the structure, that area becomes weak, and that can actually interfere with the load transfer from beams to column to footing. So it is quite necessary. It is a total damage if you are destructing a total structure and then doing test, because it is of no use. The structure will not be sustained after it. So there is another form to test structures, which is non-destructive method, wherein we do not destroy or damage the structure. It is intact, and the present condition or the present strength of the structure can be determined by various methods. We'll discuss all about it. So destructive method in concrete structure, testing hardened concrete in place is often necessary to determine the suitability of structure for its intended use. Non-destructive testing methods are used to evaluate concrete properties by assessing the strength and other properties such as corrosion of the reinforcement, permeability, cracking, and void structure. This type of testing is more important for the evaluation of both new and old structure. For new structures, the principal applications are mainly used to determine the quality of material. Testing existing structure is usually related to the assessment of the structural integrity. So, non-destructive test method can be done for both old and new, or like existing or newly constructed building. When we do it for the case of new structures, it is usually to determine the strength of the material that we use, to assess the quality of material that we use. But for old existing structures, we usually assess the structural integrity. So with the non-destructive testing also can be used as an initial step to subsequent coring and more invasive measures such as gauging, characteristics of precast, cast in place, and in situ construction. So we have already discussed about all these. Determining the acceptability of supplied material and components. Like we said, for new construction, we usually make sure that the construction is like the material which is used in the construction is of good quality and performs well and has a good compressive strength. Locating and categorizing cracking. So, uh, locating and categorizing cracks, voids, honeycombing, and other defects in concrete structures. As we know that the structure is a solid surface, anything inside the structural components needs to be analyzed for cracks, like because of settling or maybe shear force or maybe earthquake, seismic activities, or by any other reasons. So the cracks which develop regularly in a structure due to uh, different reasons or different factors um, is quite necessary for us to analyze. Usually, cracks are extremely dangerous for large structures or water holding structures like dams and bridges, because a single crack can cause a lot of deterioration in the concrete and can cause major loss of life and property. So, it is quite important to have a regular maintenance and checkup on the structure integrity. Voids, if there is improper compaction, it can lead to generation of voids, and we know that the voids are the major causes of like damage to the structure. That particular area becomes really weak in like compressive strength and can rupture easily. Honeycombing is again due to segregation, where the cement, if the water is added in excessive and there is segregation, or if the cement is dropped from a particular height and the aggregates get separated from the cement paste, in such condition, honeycombing can take place. These things are quite necessary because these generate voids, and voids are like a source of deterioration in the concrete structure. Determining the concrete uniformity prior to the core cutting, load testing, or other expensive or disruptive method. So, core cutting is again a destructive method where a portion of the structure is removed by cutting it, and then that piece like cut out piece is put to testing, but the structure is totally damaged. um, this was initially being used, but today, with new technologies, we prefer not to use destructive methods. Load testing, we usually demolish the structure. We usually load it to an extent where it starts to crack. So again, it's a disruptive method, and any other method of such sort. So it is quite necessary, and like after testing using disruptive method, the structure cannot be further used uh, for like construction. That portion of the structure becomes useless and can have other reasons, like other causes of destruction, like other causes of deterioration because of destructive testing. So usually we prefer new technologies where non-destructive method is used, where there is no damage to the structure. Monitoring strength development related to foam work removal, cessation of curing and load application, determining the position, quality, and condition of reinforcement. So it is also quite necessary if there is minor cracks which can lead to exposure to moisture and air, can cause a lot of rusting. So these things needs to be taken care of periodically, because any deformity or any corrosion in reinforcement can cause excessive damage to the particular structure. uh, Confirming or locating suspected deterioration of concrete resulting from factors as overloading, fatigue, external or internal chemical attack or change, fire, explosion, environmental effects. So these things have to be kept in mind, that like such things need to be predicted well over earlier stages, because these things keep on increasing and expanding. So like it may be initially constituted in one particular section, but with over time or with over duration of time, it can like damage, or the deterioration can increase and spread out to the whole structure. Then there is no other way other than demolishing the structure and constructing a new one. So confirming or locating suspected deterioration, we have discussed this part. Assessing the potential durability of concrete while monitoring long-term changes in property. So if we have an existing building and we need to do further construction, so we need to make sure that the existing structure is of the quality and potential, and it has the structural integrity, so that any further construction or adding of load does not damage the existing structure and the whole structure can collapse. So this is one method which is called rebound hammer method. So we can see it's a small teeny tiny device. This guy has held it in, like in the left picture we can see a guy holding the rebound hammer and testing the surface hardness of a cube, concrete cube. And on the right side you can see all the equipments that comes along with the rebound hammer. The green device that you see, a conical handheld device that you can see, is a rebound hammer, which is usually used for determining the surface stiffness. So usually this is how the test is done. Part of the section is marked out in grids and each portion is tested, and each structure, like every bit of that grid is tested using rebound hammer, and the structural like or the stiffness of the surface can be determined. And we can see on the next picture that a person is conducting rebound hammer test to confirm the stiffness and strength of the structure constructed. So these are some of the examples. It can, and the best part about this equipment is it can be done in any direction. It can be horizontal. It can be tested in horizontal direction. It can be done in a vertical direction as well. But the only part is that the device is placed at a 90-degree from the surface, which needs to be measured. So these are some of the contents. So with rebound hammer, let's go for the introduction. The rebound hammer test is one of the non-destructive tests used to check the compressive strength of concrete. An empirical relationship has been determined between the absorbed by the concrete with a given a heavy or high impact and its compressive strength. The rebound hammer is designed to carry out instant non-destructive test on concrete structure without damages and gives an immediate indication of the compressive strength of concrete using calibration curve applied each instrument. So this is an instant result that we get. So it can be done for like entire structure, marking out in a grid and conducting this like a rebound hammer test for each grid. This is a non-destructive method and does not do any damage to the surface. It is done by immediate indication by compression due to a heavy loading, heavy impact due to the load in the uh, rebound hammer. The hammer is simply pressed firmly against the concrete, whereupon a powerful internal spring is first compressed and thin stripped to deliver a hammer blow through the hardened concrete tip to the surface being tested. So rebound hammer test is done to find out the compressive strength of concrete by using rebound hammer, and it is as per IS 1331 Part 2 of 1992. There are IS codes for performing non-destructive tests, and for rebound hammer, we have this IS code. Uh, Principle of the rebound hammer test is the rebound of an elastic mass depends on the hardness of the surface against which its mass strikes. So it is the rebound value that we calculate because of the elastic mass, and the elastic mass is projected using a hammer, and it swings and impacts exerts a high impact on the surface of the concrete, after which it rebounds and the reading is directly noted from the gauge. So when the plunger of the rebound hammer is pressed against the surface of the concrete, the spring-controlled mass rebounds, uh, and the extent of such rebound depends upon the surface hardness of the concrete. So, if the stiffer the concrete surface, like longer will be the rebound, and uh, soft, if the surface is less stiffer or less hardened, the rebound will be very less. The surface hardness and therefore the rebound is taken to be related to the compressive strength of the concrete. So this is the whole structure of rebound hammer. So we have a plunger, we have a spring, we have a hammer, we have an indicator on the outside of the casing, we have a latch, we have a body, and this equipment, like on the left side, is ready for testing. It is initially pushed towards the surface which needs to be, the whole device is pushed against the surface against which the testing has to be done. As the latch hits the body, like lower back of the body, it shoots, the spring shoots, and the hammer or the plunger rebounds back, due to which the reading, the indicator in the reading gets like say gets indicator shows the amount of rebounds that the device has gone. So rebound value is read from a graduated scale and is designed as the rebound number of the rebound index. So we will discuss about rebound index and what does it mean. The compressive strength can be read directly from the graph provided on the body of the hammer. So let us discuss the procedure which is done. It should be tested against the test avail. That means it should be done against the surface which needs to be tested. Apply light pressure on the plunger and allow it to extend to the ready position for the test. So we need to make sure that the plunger is totally on the like initially it is outside the casing, and it should be the error should be exactly zero. So it needs to be calibrated properly before testing. Apply a gradual increase in pressure until the hammer impacts. So we will see that the spring inside can stretch to a certain limit, after which the hammer is shooted onto the surface along with and the pressure moves from hammer to the plunger and plunger to the surface. And when the plunger hits the surface, the hammer, the rebound action flows through plunger to hammer, and the hammer gets rebounds and goes to a extent inside the casing, and that extent can be measured using a indicator which is placed on the outside of the casing, so from which we can have instantaneous reading for surface hardness. Take the average of about 15 readings. So we approximately take an average of 15 readings. So assessing the likely compressive strength of the concrete. So we can understand the compressive strength of concrete using this device. Uh, assessing the assessing the quality of concrete in relation to the standard requirement. So yeah, and it is a non-destructive test method. The rebound reading on the indicator scale has been calibrated by the manufacturer of the rebound hammer for horizontal impact. So it is usually designed for a horizontal impact, whereas we can also use conduct a vertical impact as well. The readings might have a bit of error, which can be easily calibrated. The average rebound number, if it is greater than 40, then it is very good and hard layer. It is considered as a very good hard surface. If the rebound number is between 30 to 40, it's a good layer, uh, which is fair enough in strength. If the rebound number is between 20 to 30, the quality of concrete is considered to be fairly hardened, and if it is less than 20, it is considered as a poor concrete, and if it is zero, it is a totally weak or does not have any strength, and it the whole structure needs to be demolished, like it has no further compressive strength. It is in its plastic state. So rebound hammer and compressive strength, this is the relation. So we can see that the cylinder compressive test with compared to test hammer rebound number, so we can see a relation. So with cube compression strength in Newton per square meter millimeter plotted against rebound number, so we usually get this graph where the cube compressive strength with respect to uh, the rebound hammer number can be plotted in this sort. So this is the whole device. This is a very small, handy device. It can be carried around in any to any field size. So it is quite convenient, and this device can be used multiple times. So it makes it economical, as well as the structure. Like it is a non-destructive method, and the structure does not get damaged. So it is extremely positive to use rebound hammer test, because the integrity of the structure can be maintained even after testing. So the strength assessment, to assess the relative strength of concrete based on the hardness, casing cubes are tested under controlled conditions. This is due to hardening of concrete surface due to carbonation. It restricts to relative new structures only. Survey of weak and delaminating concrete. So delaminating is nothing but totally damaged and useless concrete, which is either in its plastic state or was never like hardened properly, or it has undergone a certain deterioration, which has broken the bond between the cement and aggregates. It helps to identify the relative surface weakness in cover concrete and to determine the relative compressive strength of concrete. This survey is carried by dividing the member into well-defined grid points. The grid matrix should have a spacing of approximately 300 mm by 300 mm. So advantages, it is simple to use, no special experience is needed to conduct the test. So even a unskilled labor can perform properly, but at least he should be able to read the indicators or the numbers which is shown in the indicator, rebound hammer indicator. Establish uniformity of properties, so it helps to like analyze the uniformity or the deformations in a structure, and particularly like spot out the locations where deformities may be present. Equipment is inexpensive and is readily available, so this is a totally calibrated by the manufacturer itself, usually does not have any error, and it is extremely inexpensive. The device is a small device. It is very handy, can be carried around, and it can be used repeatedly, and there is no destruction to the structure, so the structural integrity is maintained. A wide variety of concrete test hammer is available with an operational range of M10 to M20 for rehabilitation of old monuments. It can be done for old monuments because we do not have any records of the material which was used in old monuments. But using a rebound hammer test, we can spot out each and every location which might have some deformities, where it might have some like problematic areas or certain spots which needs to be corrected, and by identifying such voids or holes or cracks can help us do the maintenance in a certain particular area. We need not damage the whole structure and construct it again. This is some examples of whole structure. These structures need regularly monitored for its integrity, because initially without maintenance we know that a structure will start to disintegrate and get damaged. So these and we cannot actually replace these structures with the new concreting that we do. We have to preserve such structures. So the disadvantage to this is evaluates the only local point and layer of the masonry to which it is applied. So it only usually measures like the point at which it is pointed and the particular area where the plunger is in contact. So like for a surface you need to form grids, and for a grid, for a small structure we have to conduct at least 100 to 200 a test, like marking each grid. So it is quite time consuming a bit when it comes to but again there are some, because we have a deficiency of data of all old monuments, so we have to preserve without damaging and test it regularly to understand the integrity. So this has to be done, but every point has to be tested. It should be marked into grid and average values calculated. No direct relationship to strength or deformation properties. So this is again a disappointment. Unreliable for detection of loss. We can understand that the rebound hammer test is like suitable for surface stiffness and hardness. It is, but it does not, like if we have a very thick structure, so the entire structure's integrity cannot be tested, but we can only test the surface integrity and cleaning maintenance of the probe and spring mechanism. So with repeated use, we can understand that the spring might get damaged and needs replacement every few days. So the maintenance is also quite regular. So that is a big disadvantage. The conclusion is rebound value can be measured discretely, whereas the number of crushed specimen is limited. The combination of both method is the best and most reliable procedure to determine the compressive strength of the concrete structure. The method does not damage the structure like the classical method, which is disruptive or destructive method, where core must be taken for the evaluation of the compressive strength. This is again a fast, inexpensive, and easy to perform method using a light portable test equipment. Let us talk about ultrasonic pulse velocity test. So these are the contents. Ultrasonic pulse waves are very similar to light waves in that they can be reflected, refracted, and refocused. Reflections and refraction occur when sound waves interact with interfacing of different acoustic properties. So we understand that every matter has a different acoustic property. Sound may travel at a certain speed inside a solid structure, but at liquid and gas, the speed or the acoustic, due to acoustic property, the sound waves may have change in velocity. So, like by ultrasonic wave, it uses certain waves which is initially transmitted and then received using a receiver. The change in the velocity or the change in the motion of the wave or the reflection or refraction or a hindrance can indicate to certain areas which needs concern and which might have voids, cracks, or any deformities. Ultrasonic reflection from the presence of continuous and geometric features enable detection and location. So we can locate out the deformity of a structure even though it's of a higher depth. Like for rebound, it was usually done for understanding the surface hardness, but ultrasonic pulse velocity can directly indicate the density of a certain structure and the presence of voids inside that structure. Ultrasonic pulse velocity in concrete, testing of concrete is based on pulse velocity method to provide information on the uniformity of concrete, cavities, cracks, and defects. The presence of voids and honeycombing of other discontinuities. The pulse velocity is a material depend in a material depends on its density and its elastic property, which in turn are related to the quality and the compressive strength of the concrete. So, by understanding the elastic property and its density, using ultrasonic pulse velocity, we can directly relate the quality of the structure as well as the compressive strength of the concrete. Uh, this test method is applicable to assess the uniformity and relative quality of concrete, to indicate the presence of voids and cracks, and to evaluate the effectiveness of cracks repairs. It is also applicable to indicate changes in the properties of the concrete and in the survey of structures, to eliminate the severity of deterioration or cracking. Test equipments, the ultrasonic pulse velocity equipment, which is also known as Pandit, includes a transducer and a receiver and an indicator for showing the time of travel from the transducer to the receiver. We will see about it in figure 1, but it is also referred, like the manual has been put out, which gives you how to read the like the indications, which is mentioned in Pandit Manual 1998. So ultrasonic pulse uses fast potential changes to create vibration that leads to its basic frequency. The transducer is firmly attached to the concrete surface to vibrate the concrete. The pulses go through the concrete and reach the receiver. The pulse velocity can be determined from the following equation, which is V equal to L upon T. So, here we see the equipment. There is a cement specimen, and we see a transducer, a receiver, which is attached to an indicator. So the transducer emits certain sound waves which passes through the concrete structure and is received by the receiver, and the velocity, the change of velocity, or the momentum of the velocity needs to be measured using an indicator, and the indicator will determine the elastic property as well as the density of the concrete structure, which can be directly related to the compressive strength and the quality assessment, which can directly help us to determine that. And with the formula of V equals to L by T, where V stands for pulse velocity, and it is measured in it is denoted in kilometer per second. Its unit is kilometer per second, whereas L refers to the path length from the transducer to the receiver, and it is indicated in terms of centimeter, whereas T is the transit time or the time consumed. It is mu s. Based on this technique, the velocity of sound in a concrete is related to the concrete modulus elasticity, which is given by V equals to under root E upon mu. or P, where E is the elasticity of modulus of elasticity, and P is the density of the concrete. Pandit is this device. We can see the specimen which is placed in between and transducer and receiver. It is connected. This is the whole device which is used for. There are certain other devices also available in the market, and these work on the same principle, but recently with development and more requirement, other companies have also developed it. Arrangement of the equipment. There are three basic ways in which the transducers may be arranged. Opposite phases, which is direct transition, adjacent phases, which is semi-direct transition, and same phase, which is indirect transmission. So with the first diagram, we can see that it's a direct transmission where the uh, like transmitter and the receiver is placed on the opposite side of the structure. Uh, for adjacent phases or semi-direct transmission, we can see in the second picture. There, the transmitter and the receiver is placed on the um, is placed on the adjacent phases or sides of the cube, and there is another indirect transmission method where the both transmitter and receiver is placed on the same side or same side of the structure. How it works, the equipment consists of two transducers. Transducer actually two a transducer and a receiver, usually in the form of metal cylindrical heads, one of which is used to transmit an ultrasonic pulse and the other is a receiver. So one is the receiver and other is a transmitter. They are brought into contact with the concrete surface using a gel or a grease. So it works as a transition fluid. They are connected by cables to a control box which contains the pulse generator, timing circuit, and digital display. So it is the whole setup is connected to a control box which controls everything, which is pulse generator, time circuit, and digital display. The digital display indicates the time of the ultrasonic pulse to travel between the transmitting and receiving transducer. It is possible to develop an empirical relationship between pulse velocity and strength, but this relationship is influenced by type of cement, size and type of aggregates, presence of reinforcement, moisture condition and compaction, and the age of concrete. So we can see that two people on the opposite sides holding a transmitter and a receiver is conducting the ultrasonic pulse velocity for a structure. And here we can see that they are performing it, and the results out of this can be taken out by the other device control box, which can which has pulse uh, generator as well as time circuit, which can receive the signals and compute it and give out the results. So again, this is an instantaneous process. It takes microseconds. So we can see in the first picture, it is a direct transmission where it is placed on the opposite ends. On the second, we can see it is an semi-direct transmission where the transmitter and receiver is placed on the adjacent faces of the concrete surface. So methods of ultrasonic pulse velocity test. So there are two methods used for this test, which is direct method and indirect method. Direct method is the most sensitive and indirect method is the least sensitive. The indirect method should be used only when one face of the concrete is accessible, whereas the other face cannot be accessed easily. When the depth of the surface defect or crack is to be determined, or when the quality of the surface concrete relative to the overall quality is of interest. pulse are not transmitted through large air voids in a material. Therefore, it, if such a void lies directly in the pulse path, the instrument will indicate the time taken by the pulse that cumulates the void by quickest route. It is thus possible to detect large voids in concrete with a grid of pulse velocity measurement is made over a certain region in which these voids are located. So a structure without destruction containing voids can be directly monitored. So this is the transmission, the path of transmission of sound waves, and this is how the uh, waves path moves. So we can understand by the delay of time, we can analyze the time taken from the sound waves to travel from transducer to receiver. So relationship between UPS and other physical properties are like for following are the some relationship between pulse velocity and physical mechanical properties such as modulus of elasticity, compressive strength, density, porosity, and permeability. Other interests are focused on correlation between pulse velocities and cement characteristics such as water cement ratio, aggregate particle size, hydration process, curing temperature effects. So this is the graph that we get with respect like for a relationship between ultrasonic pulse velocity and strength. Again, this is another relation to derive compressive strength. With ultra pulse velocity, like the indicator and the numbering which shows the standard of the concrete or the quality of concrete is determined as per this table. If the pulse velocity is above 4.5, it is excellent. If it is between 3.5 to 4.5, it is considered good. If it is between 3 to 3.5, it is considered medium. And if it is below 3, it is considered doubtful or the structure is considered weak. Limitations ultrasonic pulse velocity measurement has been found to be valuable and reliable methods of examining the interior of a body of concrete to a truly non-destructive manner. Modern equipment is robust, reasonably, reasonably cheap and easy to operate and reliable even under site conditions. However, it cannot be overemphasized that the operator must be well trained and aware of the factors affecting the reading. So there can be million other reasons affecting the reading. So the performer or the operator needs to be well aware and trained about it. Conclusion. From this presentation, we conclude that ultrasonic pulse velocity is used for the following findings of the following properties of concrete, that is measurement of concrete uniformity, detection of cracking and honeycombing, strength estimation, measurement of layer thickness, measurement of elastic modulus, and strength development monitoring. These are some of the questions. In non-destructive testing, sound tests used in a very fine and accurate method for detecting flaws in the casting. True or false? The answer is false. Sound test is a very rough test to indicate any flaws and discontinuity in the casting. The casting is suspended by suitable support and tapping is done at the surface of the casting with a hammer which makes a variation in the tone which indicates the existence of flaws. This method does not indicate the exact location and extent to the discontinuity of casting. Impact test for detention. Detection of defects in the casting is the most crude and unreliable method of non-destructive method. True or false? It is true. In the impact test, the casting is subjected to a blow by the help of a hammer or known as weight, which basically strikes or falls on the surface on the casting. Defective casting fail due to the impact or the blow, but this method is very crude and unreliable for the material casting which is inspected. Which of the following methods of non-destructive method requires leak proofing of casing before inspection? So, first is impact testing, visual inspection, sound test, pressure test. The answer is D, pressure test. The pressure test used on casting are required to be leak proof. In this method, all the openings of the casting are closed and the gas with high pressure is introduced in it. If the casting is having a porosity or another defect, then it can be detected by leaking of gas in the water when the casing is submerged into water. Which of the following uses types of rays is used in radiography for inspection of casing? X-ray, infrared rays, ultraviolet or visible rays. So hydrography uses X-ray. These rays penetrate through the casing and makes a shadow picture on a film which is placed behind the material. These rays have a very short wavelength on the order of 0.01 angstrom, and sometimes gamma rays are also used for the inspection of casting. In penetration test of non-destructive test, a liquid is penetrated into the cracks of metal by the application of pressure. True or false? The answer is false. Penetrant testing method is generally used for detecting very small surface crack, and it has an advantage over the magnetic particle method, that can be used for any material. A penetrant liquid is used which is drawn into cracks or voids by means of capillary action. In this method, there is no requirement of pressure. Which of the following methods of inspection uses high frequency of sound waves for the detection of flaws in the casing? Penetration test, radiography, pressure test, and ultrasonic inspection. The answer is D. Ultrasonic pulse inspection is used to detect defects like cracks and porosity within the interior of the casing or material. This method uses reflection and transmission of the high frequency sound waves, which are much higher than the audible range, and then these waves are made pass through the casing for inspection. In ultrasonic inspection, a signal processing technique is used for accurate indication of the porosity of the casing. True or false? The answer is yes. A signal processing technique is used for accurately verifying the presence of porosity and also to determine the size and volume fraction. This is mainly done by measuring the changes in frequency by using a broadband transducer in which the front and back surface signals of the casing are required and digitized. Which of the following term changes in the eddy current testing method for detection of defects in the casing? Resistance, impedance, conductivity, and capacitance. So the answer is impedance. In the method of eddy current testing, the impedance of a coil is changes and the coil is brought close to the conductive material, which indicates the eddy currents induced by the coil and therefore indicates various properties and also to defect of the casing. This method can be used effectively with both ferromagnetic and non-ferromagnetic materials. There are no restrictions in eddy current testing. It can detect defects up to a high depth in the casing. True or false? No, it's a false. Um, Eddy current inspection is generally restricted to the depth less than 6 mm. That's why it is not a sensitive to small open defects of high depth as liquid penetrant testing or magnetic particle inspection. But it can replace LPT, a method for detection of surface connected discontinuities. These are some of the reference books for this subject, and thank you.